Let's bring in now Sean Bell, a retired RAF Air Vice-Marshal and military analyst. The RAF, of course, the British Royal Air Force. Thank you, sir, for your time today. What do you think about what the Americans are calling a precision operation? Was this as big a military success for the US as they're signalling? And was Iran expecting this attack so soon? The Pentagon hailing its deception tactics in deploying what it's calling its strike package.
Yeah, good afternoon, Paul. I mean, one of the things that you have to admire is just the sheer size, scale and technology of the US forces. Op Midnight Hammer, involved 125 US military aircraft, 24 Tomahawk missiles launched from 400 miles away from a submarine, 75 precision-guided bombs, and most amazing, 7 B-2 Spirit bombers. Now, putting that into context, I think although the US had planned to buy a load of those, they only bought 21 in the end. 2 of those are no longer flying. They've only got 19. 7 of them were involved in this mission, each carrying 2 of these massive bombs. And what's the slight juxtaposition, the oddity, is that this is massively high-tech, air, space and cyber, yet it was all about delivering 14 of the biggest bombs ever used that are available in the inventory, 30,000 pounds of bunker buster. Whether it was actually a successful strike or not, we'll have to wait and see. The battle damage assessment, we can get into that, but that probably hasn't been done yet, so the Americans won't know whether it's been successful or not.
And what's the thinking now on how Iran is likely to retaliate? What kind of material does it have to retaliate with? Rockets and missiles? Will it look to engaging militias and other organisations, terrorist organisations perhaps? And just how nervous are those US targets in the region? Some 20 bases, I think it is, mainly in Gulf states, 40,000 US troops, also warships in the region.
Yeah, Paul, there's a lot of different ways in which the Americans could be targeted. There's no doubt about that. There's also Straits of Hormuz and others. But what you have to work out here is that Iran is feeling incredibly vulnerable. Even just taking on Israel, Israel managed to roll back its air defences and now provides air dominance over the western part of Iran and over Tehran. That was before America even got involved. So there are Israeli fighter jets operating with impunity over the top of Iran. The last thing Iran wants to do is to pick a fight with a major global superpower. What America has just done with this strike has demonstrated just how effective it can be at a time and place of its choosing. And I think that puts Iran in a really difficult situation at the moment. There's no doubt that rhetoric will be high, but I'd be really surprised if they do something spectacular, because they will bring the wrath of the US on them, and they can ill afford to do that. Most regimes, their number one priority is their own survival. I'd be very surprised if the Iranian regime actually does something spectacular, but we are waiting with bated breath to see what they might do.
Right, and Sean, you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. Could that be an area where the Iranians might be able to do something sooner, and what kind of effect could a disruption there have, not least on oil prices?
Yeah, the Straits of Hormuz, and without getting into a sort of geography lesson, but it is a sort of an arterial route for a lot of the world's oil supply. But it is worth noting that the biggest consumer of oil that comes through that is China. China hasn't been involved in this conflict. Iran will not want to mess around with China, and therefore there are some benefits but also some downsides to getting involved in the Straits of Hormuz. I think what's fascinating is that if I was the Iranian military commander, I think I would have been trying to put up some sort of fight to demonstrate that we were at least doing something. There's no evidence at all of any Iranian jets flying over Israel. There's no evidence of any Iranian jets going up to meet the Israeli attacks or the American attacks as well. And by all accounts, none of the radars were effective at targeting any of the American strike package as well. So I wouldn't overestimate just what Iran's military capability is at the moment, although they might use some of their proxy groups just to cause some disturbance.
Sean, looking at the wider US strategy here, we were hearing a little earlier how America doesn't have a good record in terms of getting involved in military quagmires in the Middle East. A lot of criticism over Washington's engagement, their entanglement here in this conflict between Iran and Israel. What's the end game here for the Americans?
batons.
Well, I think what's fascinating, when you listen to Pete Hegseth and the press conference, he was very straight. This is not about regime change. He was very, very clear about that. And I think a lot of commentators were worried about America getting embroiled in that. Pete Hegseth was very clear. This is a short, sharp shock. We now want to get Iran to the table. If they don't, we'll make it worse. My one issue with that, though, is that we go back to this issue of battle damage assessment. The targets at Fordo are 80 metres below the ground, below rocks, below mountainsides and the like. And when I was in the military, let's give an example. When we were in the Iraq War, you could put a bomb through a hardened aircraft shelter. There was a hole in the top, but you couldn't tell whether you destroyed what was inside. In the same way, it would be very difficult immediately to tell if these attacks on Fordo were successful. If they were not, then actually, unless America continues having a go at them with repeat performances, the danger is that it's taken all the risk by attacking Iran, but with none of the benefits. So I don't think we've yet quite seen the end of the American military capability demonstration.
Sean, we really appreciate your expertise on this today. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Sean Bell, retired RAF Air Vice-Marshal and a military analyst.